Welcome back to Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. Produced by Charitable Communications and generously underwritten by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. I am Bobby Keys.
And I'm Ruth Bombiggis. And extra shout out to the Kauffman Foundation. Boy, they've been doing incredible work in our community as we get through this time and working in partnership. Bobby, I don't know how you feel. I think it's amazing that some of these organizations that, may have touched each other are really working together to move things forward in the community. Our next guest, who is Kelsey Ryan, and Kelsey is the editor of a new, a media outlet. Kelsey, would that be right? With The Beacon.
Yes, hi.
Hi, welcome. All right, so we know that the term of a beacon is bringing light and, in opening our eyes, illuminating. Tell us about The Beacon that you now head up.
So my background is as an investigative journalist, and I previously worked for the Wichita Eagle and the Kansas City Star, and knew that there was an opportunity to do some different kind of work with journalism here in our area, and decided to start The Beacon, which is now in its soft launch phase amid a pandemic. So quite a time to start a new venture.
Absolutely. So tell us, when you say you're in soft launch, what does that mean for our listeners and followers? What can we find and where can we find it?
Yeah, so we're an online-only publication, and basically soft launch means for us that we're putting stories out there, but maybe just not to the frequency that we will be later this summer when we have our first full-time reporter. We're currently working with freelance journalists and really putting together kind of our internal processes and workflows and story ideas and really kind of working on our editorial strategies right now. So that's kind of what soft launch means. Is it's like kind of almost a sneak preview of more to come in the following months.
And do you post it? Do you have a website people can go to read these different things at this point?
Yeah, so our website is www.thebeacon.media. So it's not .com or .org, it's .media. And right now we are a primarily newsletter-focused publication. So the folks who sign up for our newsletter get that information first. And, of course, we share on social channels as well. We do post, copies of our past newsletters onto our website. But this summer is when our website will completely change and will be considered a publishing website as well.
Why did you guys do this? Why? It's a big endeavor, and there's lots of news organizations out there.
Yeah. So, a little bit more about me. My background was as an investigative reporter. Like many other reporters, I was laid off in 2018. And, I'm from the Midwest. I saw a need for more robust journalism business models here in the Midwest. There's about 200, actually probably more than 200 nonprofit news organizations that are not public radio or television across the United States. And really our region doesn't have that kind of business model for journalism. And so that was something that I saw as a real opportunity to help strengthen our local news ecosystem, but also to, try to do something different. So our coverage, we're really trying to focus on stories that are solutions-driven, stories that are data-driven, and we're also not doing opinion. We think that there's enough opinion out there and not enough facts. And about half the newspaper journalists in the United States have lost their jobs in the last 10 years. And so we want to really make sure that, we are trying to put something in place that will be sustainable and last for a long time.
Well, that's great. Why did you go with a nonprofit model?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at different business models, of course. But essentially with a nonprofit model, and we have a fiscal sponsor because we don't yet have our 501c3 our fiscal sponsor is the Kansas Newspaper Foundation, which is part of the Kansas Press Association. And we decided to go with that model because we realized that by getting grant funding and doing fundraising for a year before our launch, we could essentially get startup capital to get the beacon up and running and hopefully, see it through to sustainability. We are also, now launching our founding members campaign. And so essentially we're asking the public, if you believe in this, please, pay $50 and we'll recognize you as a founding member. And, over time, we hope to become a membership-sustained organization. We're also working on some corporate sponsorship ideas and, of course, looking at the ethical side of that with journalism and how we can be really transparent with our processes. And we also realized that a nonprofit had a lot of opportunities around community engagement and showing people that our true mission is really the most important part of our model. And so that is something that was just really important to us, was to really look at audience engagement, to talk to people about what they are looking for in local news and how we can help fill that gap.
We know from experience, having the nonprofit that is responsible for our show, it's not easy to do it. So I'm curious what your journey has been through this. As you said, you're waiting for your designation. We've been down that road, and then you wait for the IRS letter. So if you share your journey.
Yeah, it's been a really good journey. I've learned a lot. I've had to take a lot of the skills from reporting and journalism and kind of apply them in new and different ways. So, just learning all I could about different business models, calling up other folks who have started similar nonprofit news organizations, and interviewing them essentially and asking them what worked, what didn't work, what's your best advice for us. And one of the things that I found really encouraging was that in the nonprofit journalism world, it's not as competitive, I suppose. People are more willing and able to share what they've learned and also their budget to give you an idea of like what the amount of money is that it takes to do this. And so it was really wonderful to talk to people from across the country who've done this and to really get an idea of like what it does take. We've been really fortunate. We've been able to hire a few people already and, have interns coming this summer. We were selected for the Report for America program. We've received a Google News Initiative grant, among other generous funders locally. So we've really just been trying to lay a foundation and a groundwork for this organization since early 2019.
That's wonderful. So I got to ask about, your when it comes to the board development, you seem to have a pretty heavy board. So how did that come about? How did, I guess, the framework for deciding who came on and who to go and talk to about that? Can you tell us that process?
Yeah. So as a founder of a nonprofit, I did a lot of, interviews with people to talk to them about also just like what it takes to have a good board of directors, and knew that I also lacked a lot of the skills that we need for the board. So wanted to purposely seek out people who have experiences that differ from mine and who have been successful in their own industries and sectors. So we do have a few folks with journalism backgrounds on the board. It's a governance board. It's not an editorial board. But basically, we wanted to find people who had different skill sets outside of journalism and but who still believed in our mission and helping us kind of carry that torch. So we, like I said, as a journalist, I talked to a lot of people. I talked to sources and folks and kind of had some preliminary, conversations with folks, and then just started reaching out to them just like I would with a story and saying, hey, I'm trying to build a board. Like, would you be interested in this? Would you like to learn more? And kind of, talk to them. And it took a year. Those conversations started again in early 2019. And then we waited to announce our board until I think it was February of this year. So it was some of the folks were kind of in a holding pattern for a while as we worked to build out our board.
And you say they're not an editorial board. At some point, do you see the Beacon having that?
So the way a lot of these nonprofits are structured, and I should preface it too, editorial board, a lot of folks associate that with opinion pieces. We don't write opinion. So we won't have like editorial direction from opinion is one thing. But no, I mean, this is a governance board. Their goals are to help elevate the organization, help us with strategies, budget, fundraising, things like that. So that's really their role. We are looking at community advisory board type roles that we can do with audience. Before the pandemic hit, we were doing a lot of in-person engagement, kind of design thinking sessions with people, talking to them about news, how they get their information, what kind of information is missing. And so to us, that's a really critical component of how we can help as journalists determine our coverage instead of staying in silos and just kind of echo chambers across the area.
I'm curious, what did folks tell you that they felt was missing?
Yeah, so I think the community engagement piece was something that a lot of people really responded to. They felt like, and I'm totally, giving a high-level overview here, but basically they felt like there was maybe a disconnect between the news organizations and the people that, the public that should be served. There were some areas that people thought particular, like topic areas that could be covered more. The areas of wanting to do solutions journalism and data-driven journalism really resonated with people. And when we told them that we weren't interested in doing opinion, that was something that we heard really positive response from people from all sides of the political spectrum. So that was a really interesting finding as well.
And as you move forward, how do you envision building your audience, especially as a nonprofit news source?
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of work out there that has been done on business models and funnels and all of this other stuff. But to boil it down, we think that taking a more personal approach is a really good way to build audience. We've already got over 1,200 newsletter subscribers. I think it actually went over to 1,300 this morning. So we've got a fairly good audience there. In the days after the coronavirus pandemic started, we started a private Facebook group, and that's already grown to over 5,000 members. So we are trying to find ways that we can be most helpful to people and to, build that audience through either word of mouth, but also through social media, newsletters, etc. We know that not everyone can afford to pay for news, especially right now in such uncertain economic times. But there are people out there who do have the financial resources to do that. And we, since launching or doing our soft launch, have had a huge surge in the number of individual donations that we've received. So that's kind of our strategy there, is just really meeting people where they're at and actually taking the time to listen.
Just in our little time left, is there anything that's really surprised you now as a nonprofit leader?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's so much as a nonprofit leader, but just being a journalist and being really unsure of what sort of reaction we would get by launching a news organization in the year 2020, with all of the things going on and the politicization of a lot of things. I was just really taken aback by how supportive people have been and how much people really do care about journalism and stories being told locally. I think sometimes we often just hear the negative about media coverage, and to be able to hear why people felt it was so vital, especially in times like this, it's a really good feeling to be able to serve the public in that way.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Again, it's thebeacon.media. Check it out. Go get them. We thank you for giving us time and telling us about it.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice, produced by Charitable Communications, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're proudly sponsored by the Ewing, Marion Kauffman Foundation. Like what you hear, support our efforts in sharing these stories of nonprofits. You can reach us at KC Cares online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And thank you for listening to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice.
Inspired by Ewing, Marion Kauffman, the Kauffman Foundation believes that every person, regardless of their background, should have the opportunity to learn, to take risks, and to own their success. Working together with our Kansas City community and beyond, we take on approaches that break down barriers, providing people with the necessary skills throughout life to make or take a job and ultimately give back to their community. By listening to the communities we serve, tap into our learnings and relationships, and bring everyone together to build and support programs that improve education, boost entrepreneurship, and help Kansas City thrive. Learn more at Kauffman.org.